home again. Oh man, I'll tell you what, once this lifetime is over, I sure hope they give you at least a little bit of a time out to sleep before they send you into the next adventure. You know what I mean? I know it's all self-inflicted, no sleep, but what do? We're running out of time, right? I'm running out of time. I gotta keep going. I might be dead this time next year. Might be dead next week. You never know. Anyway, past couple days is really great. Managed to help create a lifelong special memory between a father and his young son. How cool is that? Boy got a 30-pound salmon. How cool is that? Then the next day, we got a 21-pounder. I think a 21 to 16 to 14 or something. And Jeff's young son, Jacob, has got his first halibut. Took him out there yesterday afternoon because we all had to leave and go home. They have quite a ways to go to travel home and try to get him a halibut. Got him his first halibut, forgot to take the picture. It was a small one. And then I made them stay out there and I kept grinding to see if I could hook him into a real good one. And sure enough, hooked him into a frickin' huge halibut and it broke the equipment. The equipment that I bought, I usually make my own, it's called a spreader bar. It's piece of stainless steel, heavy gauge wire. Excuse me, I'll have swivels on all 3 points, the bottom. It's shaped like an L. And the swivel that goes to the main line blew apart from the pressure from the halibut. Poor kid. In the fight for his life, fighting fish, exciting as all can be, and then all of a sudden, bump, end of story, done deal, nothing you could do. That was a bit of a bummer. Tried for a little while longer and then went in. Traveled home. I got home at 9 o'clock last night or something. So beat. I went by that lake again, where I had that experience the other day on the way out. I wonder what that's all about. You know what? So reviewing my thoughts and my feelings of what went down and how I felt, how it made me feel. I didn't even want to go drive back down that road again. I will again later on. Maybe I'll take you guys with me and we'll videotape it for the hell of it, just to show you where it was. But see this photo right here? This is the patch of timber. So in this photo, to the left of the camera, about maybe 100 and something yards, is where the pile of logs sit across the old access road that I sat on top of sharing emails. Now if you go back, so I set up the drone up from there a couple years ago. And once you get way back in there, it's a substantial piece of timber, right? And there's swamp back in there. It's just dark swamp in this headwaters of the river that I steelhead fish in sometimes. And I've shared those steelhead videos here. There's also the river where numerous First Nations people and who knows who else has had visual experiences with these beings right there. Somebody sent me a screenshot from the comments section, mailed it to me, of another couple, I believe, who had experiences in the mouth of that river. There's a couple of First Nations homes are down there, and finding tracks along the river there, and sightings, on and on and on, right? Anyway, I found, as I was daydreaming about a drive home yesterday, my main thought was, this better not be the beginning of being bugged. You know what I mean? Because where I go and steelhead fish on that river... Oh, wait a minute, I gotta back up and babbling. Where I sat on those logs, the camera's facing those logs, to my right, that timber, the timber in this picture, that's the exact same patch of timber the sound came out of. It's just farther up at that end of the timber is where I was in the edge of the lake. Okay, just for a little more of a detailed description and relevance to the previous stuff that's going on while I've been there. Now, what I found my main thoughts were going home last night after looking down there again was, this better not be the beginning of ongoing for me, right? I really like to go into the woods, unmolested, unbothered, untormented, mind my own business. Don't try to be sneaky and obtain something from some other being that they don't want me to obtain, meaning photographs or whatever. I don't give a shit. It's been done a gazillion times. I'm over it. I accept it. Cat's out of the bag. Moving forward. But to get to that one particular, my favorite steelhead hole, I have to hike through that big timber for quite some time, and then I got to drop down the bank into the river. cross the river slowly because it's quite slippery, and then walk down some rapids all the way down to the opposite side of the river and have my back to that thick ass shit behind me, and then look up into that dark timber across from me. You've seen the videos. So what I'm saying is, I hope, and I've fished there peacefully for quite some time now. So my thoughts were, I just hope this isn't the beginning of being a slightly, possibly tormented every time I go near there now. I hope it's not the beginning. That's what my thought was last evening. I don't need to be standing there in the steelhead hole and look up and see somebody looking at me with a look on their face like they can't stand me, hate me, want to shred me and tear me apart, and they're 10 feet tall. I'm not into it. Right? Or behind me. And then what? Then there's that stressful, stumbling hike up the river to get out of there and get back on the same side. Potentially somebody right there menacing me, right? And I've already experienced that walk. I've already experienced that being in front of me, looking at me from up in that rock. And that walk out to the truck from there was the longest walk I've ever had in my life. So I've experienced it to know enough that I don't want to experience that feeling again. I'm good. If you want to get in contact with me, then do it in a more of a subtle way. Not 10 feet away from me, breaking a branch the thickness of my leg or whatever it was, and trying to intimidate me, which isn't too hard to intimidate human beings, right? Go stand on the other side of a logging clear cut 100 yards away from me. We'll look at each other that way. How's that sound? You know what I mean? Maybe stand up on the other side of the lake I was on. Wave. I'm good. But don't sneak up and stalk me and stand beside me 15 meters away and snap a massive branch. And, yeah, anyways, I'm babbling. Not into it. I hope it's not the beginning of something that's going to ruin a place for me. That's what I'm saying. Now, who's coming? Adventure Puppy. What's going on, bubs? Huh? All right. Here's our sidekick. I threw down the sleeping bag for her to lay down in the corner. I think she missed her dad. All right, let's get back into it. Voices, let's go. It's time. This is titled Not for Prying Eyes. Hello, Steve. Huge fan here from Ohio. I watch your videos daily and have for a few years now. Anyhow, after learning of Edgar, I'm aware of a man that fits his exact description, former job title and hardships he is currently facing as well. I'm not entirely sure if the guy's name is Edgar, though. Just a bunch of coincidental things. I just thought I'd let you know of this, though. I can find out his name later on and maybe create a safer term for communication if Proton does not work out. I, too, have experienced a few odd things in life that have left me in wonder, and one experience that gave me definitive evidence. Also, I am currently in possession of what I believe to be a large molar from an omnivorous creature that I found hiking the backwoods of the Monongahela National Forest. Native words in me, right? Monongahela National Forest in West Virginia. I'd like to have it tested, but I'm wary of putting it in the mail. It looks human, but ultimately is too large. It appears to have been a chipped tooth that allowed fur from the creature's diet to be tucked up into the tooth itself. Coincidentally, I had a man approach a friend of mine through mysterious circumstances, and the conversation led them to talk about the tooth I recovered. The man claims to be an anthropologist from a local university that would like to see the tooth. I'm very skeptical of it leaving my possession. Excuse me. I am an outdoorsman and have very similar beliefs to you. I've always wanted to be able to do what you've done in life. It looks like a dream. Congrats for living the good life. Excuse me, you guys. I wasn't born into a family of hunters and I've grown up mostly in the suburbs, making it quite difficult to do the things I've always wanted to do. Anyhow, I'd be enthralled to hear back from you and to share my few stories with you that have played a large part in finding your channels and others alike. Thank you for your time and considerations. All right, first off, tell the guy at the university to pound it. is my feelings on that. The public schools, this is still a part of the public school system, right? And in the past, how many of those people, including that infamous Sasquatch, Bigfoot community-related doctor, have taken people's samples and made them disappear? Don't do it. Go with your gut. If anyone out there, including yourself, has something that you believe may be related, and you believe you have absolute, for certain, some sort of unknown DNA of anything, I would suggest the only way to look into getting that found out is through here, through the people, right? We have way too many past experience people sharing how they sent off hair or whatnot, DNA samples to these various other groups, and it just disappeared. End of story, right? Once bitten, twice shy. Learn from past, learn from facts, learn from the people. It's not the right thing to do. You stay away from those people. At this point of the game, what would I do? If I had that tooth and I was driven to find out its origins through DNA, I would contact Melba Ketchum. That's what I would do, and I would deliver it to her in person, is what I would do. Or somebody you trust with your life who has direct contact with her. That's what I would do. At this stage of the game. Do I know of any other place I could do it? Not at this point. Not me, nope. But that's what I would do. So, interesting, right? Now, as far as Edgar goes, I wouldn't lose too much energy in that department. I know exactly who Edgar is and his colleagues, and we're all good in that department. For here, if somebody's mimicking or trying to copy the stories and the experiences shared here somewhere else, that's a big possibility. We've had a handful of people have emailed me in the past saying that their stories they only shared with me to all you. It was also shared on various YouTube channels, word for word, from other people trying to do whatever it is they're trying to do. So, thanks for the email, man. Please do not be misled and lose your tooth, all right? Don't do it. Don't give it away. Now, who else? Where am I? What's this one? Okay, I get a lot of unrelated emails to this topic, but everything's connected. So give me a second here. All right, here's a fairly recent one, I believe. And it is titled, Good Morning, Steve. Good morning to you. I live on the outskirts of Calgary. That's Alberta, Canada. About 500 meters from the Tsuut'ina, TSU, apostrophe UTINA, for First Nation. I've had a few interesting encounters with shadows and orbs floating through my home. You're not the only one, just so you know. I met a gentleman who used to live near Pridis, P-R-I-D-I-S-S. He was closing his gate for the night and walking back to the house. He ran into a troop of Union soldiers. Their commanding officer was distressed that they were lost. They walked right through him and kept on walking. He was freaked out. No doubt. Pridis, Alberta, is a long way away from anywhere you would expect to encounter Union soldiers. Thanks for all you do. I've always been a Sasquatch believer. My grandmother told of how they would make off with cows and calves. Deb Trochim. Deb, I apologize if I butchered your last name just now, right? My last name gets butchered all the time. It is what it is. It's never disrespectful. It just is what it is. That's interesting. That is interesting. There is a lot of weird stuff going on, right? There's a lot of weird things going on. Parallel existences that I can't even describe. Whatever it is going on, it's freaking bizarre. I have no answers to that experience, but let's see if there's anyone else from around there that has experienced the same thing. It might be interesting to a bunch of people, right? To really kind of stop them and talk to them and ask them what they were seeing and where they thought they were and how they got there. That would have been really crazy. There's another one titled Sasquatch. This is a couple of years ago. Mailed in. Steve, use my name. I'm not afraid of anything. Right on. Love hearing that. Except for that being that I heard 50 feet from me in the middle of the day. Let me give you some background first. I live in Sonoma County, California. Started hunting blacktail bucks in 1980 when I was 12. 4,000 acres of private property owned by friends of the family. Looking back, there are a few things that didn't add up at the time. But looking back now and knowing what I know, they all add up. The first year deer hunting, us kids get to DOG for the adults. Dog for the adults? I guess that means probably push and push, right? No problem, except for the oldest of us kids suddenly quits hunting for good after a big drive. Okay, drive for you non-hunters means when big patch of forest, you'll put a few people on the other side of the forest sitting in various positions ready to possibly harvest game that runs out, and then you put a bunch of, what they're saying to the kids, go through that forest, spread out, to get anything that's in there up on his feet and moving. Just so you know. He wouldn't talk about what happened, but he told me something growled at him on his way down the creek while we were dogging that day. I asked, "What is a mountain lion? A dog? A coyote?" He said, "No. It wasn't anything he ever heard before." He didn't tell anyone. He didn't tell anybody else what he heard. He just said hunting wasn't for him. Then later in the year, wintertime hog hunting with my dad, I noticed on a skid road these sapling redwoods with the tops broken and hanging off. Not all of them. Just one broken on each turn the road made. One top pointing the same direction as all the others. In the middle of 10 or 15 little trees not broken. I asked my dad, "What does that?" He said he didn't know, but probably the wind? I didn't think so. Then about 1992, after deer season, early November, a friend and I were coming out of the ranch right before dark. We saw a bunch of hogs rooting out in the open. I pulled my pistol, shot the biggest one of the bunch. A big dog killer with 3-inch teeth showing. He flipped ass over a tea kettle, got up on his front legs, and drug his ass down into the now dark madrona trees toward a creek we had crossed a couple of miles back. My buddy said, "Give me your flashlight and pistol and take the pickup down to the creek. I'll meet you there." So I drive back the 2 or 3 miles and park next to the creek. I shut the engine off, go out, and whistled as loud as I could, and out of the... There's a couple punctuation missing. Sorry, you guys. I shut the engine off, got out, and whistled as loud as I could. And out of the dark from behind me comes my same exact whistle, only it's so loud it sounds like it came out of a car horn, not 50 feet away in the dark. I ask, "How did you get here so fast?" No reply, silence only. I jumped in, started the pickup, turned the lights on, and waited 20 minutes. Later, my buddy shows up, dragging my trophy hog. And I just said, "Give me my gun and let's go." This is 20 miles from any town, no houses for 5 miles, and no cars parked alongside the road anywhere. Then, the next deer season after that, I rode out with another hunter with groceries for our Labor Day weekend. Excuse me. Also, it's ladies hunting weekend. Most of the members take off early for home, and my parents and girlfriend were coming out later in the day for the rest of the long weekend. So Sunday morning, the last pickup leaves me and my hog dog, Bob, alone at camp. As soon as the pickup couldn't be heard anymore, the noise starts from about 60 feet below us, moving side hill, rolling rocks, breaking limbs and branches as it goes. As it moves out of the trees into the clearing, the noise stops, but is replaced with the most god-awful breathing, more of a growl in and out of lungs the size of a horse. I'm wearing a .44 mag pistol. My fearless dog is listening with me. Then directly below us, the noise stops. I look at Bob. He lays his ears down and creeps with tail between his legs to my ranch jeep and quietly jumps in and hides. Needless to say, I didn't look over the edge. I followed my dog's lead and left in a hurry. But that was it. Never another thing I could remember, and I kept this to myself, kind of. I told my buddy and my parents. They act as if I never said anything. Anyway, thank you so much for letting me get this out. I kept hunting on that ranch another 10 years. Now we hunt the D4 zone in Sierras. Black-tailed bucks are effing awesome. Nothing compares with them. Keep your nose to the wind and your head on a swivel. Your friend in North Carolina, Richard Charles. Appreciate that, Richard. I'm glad you're aware, man. Glad you're aware and taking note. And isn't it weird when you get that blank window licker look at you when you do share something with someone who may, you would think, possibly might want to find it interesting or be appreciative of the knowledge that you're willing to share, right? But meanwhile, they just kind of look at you with that glazed over look and go about doing whatever they do. It is kind of weird, isn't it? So it is very weird how so many of the population is just, they're just ingrained in that program they're ingrained in, and there's no room for anything else, and they're content and they just keep doing it like a frickin' robot, like a hamster in a wheel. It's really weird to watch when you're not there yourself, right? But anyway, good luck with the blacktails. I got a blacktail hunting app out there if you want a bunch of tips. I've accumulated since I was like 12 years old, I believe, but I've finally sort of figured out how to do it. But it takes a lot of time, man. It takes a lot of time. They're the only deer that wakes up in the morning and goes, I think I'll go that way for 7 miles, and I'm not going to come back here for another 2 years. I think I'm going to do that today. That's what they do, so good luck. You'll get one if you don't quit. Don't quit. Don't ever quit anything. I got so many frickin' emails, you guys. Alright, here we go. What's this one? Mark this as red. My encounters on a forest ranch. That Steven name is Dana Trumbley, aka Mama D. I live in Oroville, California. I've been married to my best friend and hunting partner for almost 30 years. We have 3 children. Our first encounter was approximately mid-October of 2005 in Forest Ranch, California, during our C-zone deer season. We left our home around 10 p.m. to head up to an area then owned by Diamond Match Company. A dear friend of ours worked for them and gave us the combo to the gate. My husband worked late that night, and that set us back a few hours to get into our spot for the next morning's hunt. We finally get there, and because of the late hour and the fact that we had no moonlight, we decided to just sleep in the GMC Jimmy Blazer. Our youngest daughter is with us. She's about 10 at the time. My husband and daughter laid down in the back, and I kicked the driver's side front seat back into the lounge position. After about an hour of falling into an uncomfortable sleep, I heard footsteps coming towards the truck. I immediately became awake and aware of my surroundings. As the steps got closer, I reached over and shook my husband, and I said, quote, "Babe, there's someone walking around our truck." He said, "No way." I said, "Shh, listen." The steps were definitely bipedal, and it walked completely around the front passenger side, stopped, and then around to the back towards the driver's side. It stopped there for about 10 or so seconds and then walked off, heading to the northeast of us. About a minute later, there was an animal scream. It lasted 20 plus seconds. My mind was racing. Time 20 plus seconds. Just time it. What in the hell was that? As my husband uttered the words out loud, little did we realize our baby girl was also awake and listening. I've heard almost everything that lives in the woods. Call, yell, scream, tweet or chirp, you name it, and I can most likely ID it. I'd never heard anything like this before, ever. It was approximately 150 to 175 yards away from us, and the sounds were so piercing, it was almost deafening. Said hundreds of people now, thousands. And how do they do this? How do they do that? We were so scared we didn't sleep for the rest of the night and left just as day broke. No doubt, we never went back there. Unfortunately, because our friend had seen a giant buck on multiple occasions in that spot he sent us to. The second time wasn't anywhere near as scary. Again, we were out deer hunting, but this time we were in Challenge, California. This is about 2, maybe 3 years later. The Forest Service / logging road gates were locked, so we parked and walked in about 2 miles on the Forest Service logging road. I was in the lead. My husband was about 300 yards back. I was coming up on a bend in the road. Mind you, it was late summer. There was an embankment on my right, northeast, about 30 feet high with forest above it, then the road I was on, and then a down slope of about 30 feet to my left, south-southwest. There was a clear cut. It was at least 400 plus yards before it became thick woods again. I slowed my pace, knowing that deer tend to run ridges/fingers, so I needed to look for tracks or anything down in the clear cut, possibly feeding. As I worked my way to the left, I noticed the road dust was deep, and I knew I'd see whatever was crossing that ridge would be easily identified and which way they were traveling, so on and so forth. I saw several doe tracks and a couple different good buck tracks. I walked, scanned slow and easy. Then I saw a left, huge, human, barefoot print. He was heading west, down slope. It had to be at least 14 plus inches by 4.5 to 5 inches wide. I knelt down and just waited for my husband to catch up to me. I scanned the wood lines, waiting. When he got closer, he stopped and motioned, "What do you see?" I motioned back, "Come here." When he got to me, I pointed to the footprint, and he said, "Who the hell would be out here barefoot?" My reply, "I don't know, maybe a Bigfoot." We looked for more tracks, but the center of the road was so hard packed that we couldn't find anything. I had that feeling that someone was watching us. So did my hubby. We decided to head back to the truck and leave. There's been more times that I can count to feeling like I needed to just get out of an area while hunting, for no reason at all. I left anyway. I've told my encounters to many people, and 9 out of 10 times I'm told I'm delusional or high or just have paranoid thoughts. I know what I heard and saw. I didn't make it up in my mind. I don't use drugs, although I do enjoy a few glasses of wine now and then. I don't care if people think I'm nuts. Maybe I am, and I'm fine with that too. Thanks for everything you're doing to make everyone aware. I appreciate you, Mama D. Mama D, you're not crazy. You're not alone. And it doesn't matter what people think. It never will. It doesn't matter what they think of what you experienced firsthand. It's whether or not they can accept it as fact or not. If they're not in tune with their gut, their sixth sense, well, they're destined to a lifetime of losing, right? It is what it is. You can't stop there. Don't let them stop you. It's a roadblock. It's a trap. Don't do it. Be safe out there, and thank God you go with your gut instincts. If you feel it's time to leave, it is time to leave. It is time to leave. It's titled 1/75th Ranger Battalion. My background: I'm a farm boy who in the early 80s joined the Army and was assigned to the 175th Ranger Battalion. I spent the next 10 years as a ranger and LRRP team leader. In those days, the woods was my home. Encounter 1, 11th July 1995, time 0400. Location, north of Cummins, Michigan. Even gave it the latitude and longitude. Clear moon, phase, full or near dark. We had a secluded family cabin deep in a cedar forest on the banks of a river miles from civilization. It was our base camp for family vacations, hunting, fishing, and winter sports. This particular night, my family had gone to bed, and I went outside to stargaze. Suddenly, off to my right, I heard a baby's cry twice just across the river. I quickly made my way to the spot. There in the moonlit forest, about 50 feet away, I could see what I thought may be a small herd of deer, maybe 3 or 4. It did occur to me that bobcats and deer did not socialize, but I pressed on. Okay, where'd the bobcat mention come from? Did I just misread? I quickly made my way to a spot. There in the moonlit forest, about 50 feet away, I could see what I thought may be a small herd of deer, maybe 3 or 4. It did occur to me that bobcats and deer did not socialize, but I pressed on. Okay, meaning you thought it may have been a bobcat making the cry, probably, right? Sorry. All at once, a foul stench of wet dog, rotten duck eggs, cow farts, and skunk's ass hit me. I'd never smelled all things in such a strong combination. Just then, the, quote, deer, end quote, spooked and started heading north through the thick cedar. To their front, the ground rose a few hundred feet out from the cedar forest, giving way to an open woodlands. There's a foot trail just east of me, paralleling the direction the deer were going, so I jumped on it and gave chase. Holy cow, it's actually pouring rain outside. First time in days and days. If you can hear that, it's not distortion. As I ran towards the hill, the sound of something big crashing through the forest was just to my left. I know once we hit the hill, the deer would head south away from me, come to a small valley that cut back west, ending up on the backside of this hill. So I went over the top expecting to cut them off. As I crested the hill and started down the backside, the deer were gone. I could see small pine trees whipping back and forth violently at the north end of the valley. I couldn't believe the deer outran me, but I pressed on. Just then, I caught another whiff of that odd, foul smell. If the deer kept going, they would run into another thick cedar forest. Hot on their heels, I believed they would head south around a beaver pond and into a clear cut, logged a few months earlier. I moved southwest at a quick pace and soon emerged from the woods above the beaver pond. As I stood quietly, I heard, then saw, what looked like a very large moose coming from where I expected the deer to be. I've been chasing a moose. Had I been chasing a moose, making sounds like a bobcat and smelling like a city dump? Had I been chasing a moose, making sounds like a bobcat and smelling like a city dump? The thought was still rolling around in my head when I realized this moose has no head. It had no backside either, and it's huge. Soon this thing emerged from the tall brush and started uphill, about 50 feet from me. I was paralyzed. My pants, real men don't wear underwear, sucked halfway up my ass as the pucker factor went well past 100%. There, before me, was a very large, hairy, man-like beast, built like an NBA basketball player with no neck. It strolled through the clear cut like it was walking through a parking lot. Unbelievable. When it turned and headed directly away from me, I could see this beast had a back as wide as two men and shoulders the size of medicine balls. I could clearly see heavily muscled arms, chest, leg, and back, all covered in hair. As it came to the edge of the clear cut, I made a mental note of a tree limb it narrowly passed under going back into the woods. At daybreak, I took a big shot of whiskey and, armed only with a measuring tape, I headed back to the spot I last saw the creature. Excuse me. When I arrived, I scanned the woods nervously, and I fumbled with the tape. I hooked the tape on the limb long enough to get the other end to touch the ground. I looked down at the tape and saw this thing measured over 10 feet tall. Then I shit myself. Wow. Encounter 2, date July 2016, time 0700. Location, Berrien Center, Michigan. The weather was clear, moon phase was full or near full. I was in my motor coach close to my in-laws' house, where I would meet up with my wife. I had my window down as I came to the intersection of M140 and Pokagon Road. Suddenly I was hit by a familiar stench, one I'd smelled 21 years earlier. And I'll be darned, I thought, there's a Bigfoot around here. Shortly thereafter, I arrived at the house, parked the RV, crawled in the back, and went to bed. I thought it was odd the dogs had not barked, but soon I was fast asleep. The next morning, early, the little honey came knocking hard on the door. "What the hell's wrong with you?" she said. Having been trained to the art of resist interrogations, I quickly turned the tables on her. "Oh, what's up?" I replied. "Why were you banging on the garage door last night? You scared the crap out of me and the dogs." "Slow down," I replied. "Tell me what happened." "Well, last night around 1 a.m. I heard something like a knob on an old-time radio being turned quickly. I could hear loud, rapid talking, but I couldn't make out any words. When I looked out with the flashlight, I saw the dogs cowering in their dog houses, scared." My wife's parents lived just east of Berrien Springs, Michigan. The house sat well back off the road and is bordered hundreds of acres of farmland, orchards, vineyards, and some marsh. The room we stayed in when visiting is above the garage. It looked out over the drive and the woods to the west. Just outside, there were 3 guard dogs that barked their heads off if a fly farted. This night, however, they refused to even come out. What happened then, I asked. After the little honey scanned with the flashlight, she went back to bed, finished her book. And minutes later, she heard something hitting the roof with a thud. Then something, or someone, began rattling the garage door, followed by a loud series of bangs in quick succession. She did not know about Bigfoot, but I felt it was time she did. I told her the radio tuning sounds are forms of communications typical to Sasquatch. I also told her, like most ops, when Bigfoots, when scared or threatened, throw things, rocks or trees, etc. She was very skeptical, but had never caught me lying, so reluctantly she believed me. I got the ladder and climbed onto the roof, where I found a large handful of rocks, enough to fill my hands cupped together. The garage door was clearly damaged, as if something big had tried to push up on it. The banging noise was from the spring breaking in half. When the garage door repairman arrived, he was amazed. Besides having a sheared spring that would have taken thousands of pounds of force to break, some of the door panels were wrinkled. The repairman said, "It's as if a hydraulic jack had been used to lift the door." Apparently, Bigfoots became agitated, threw rocks at the house, and tried to open the garage door. They were scared off when the spring snapped. I asked little honey if she could remember anything else. "Yes," she exclaimed. "There was a skunk wandering around too. I could smell it." We spent the rest of the day watching Bigfoot videos on YouTube. She had never seen the Patterson-Gimlin film or any of the hundreds of other clips. I hope you add this report to your collection. With that testimony, we may one day know exactly what these beings are and how to properly deal with them. For now, my advice to anyone who asks is to avoid at all cost. If confronted, do as you would if cornered by a giant grizzly bear. Put your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye. Thanks for your time. Be safe out there. Best regards, Joe Karcher, Ironwood, Michigan. Joe, I hope you said it was okay to use your name. All right, didn't say not to use it. There you go, man. Thanks for that share. Thanks for coming forward. Thanks for coming forward. More members of the Club of No Return. How big is this club? Gotta wonder. You gotta wonder. Why are they banging on houses? I don't get it. Such a useless thing for them to do, right? Picture being 10 feet tall, or maybe even 9, whatever, I don't care what the average is. Imagine being 10 feet tall, 800 pounds, and you're pissed at something inside something as feeble as a house. You know, bang on the wall. Why? Why? What a waste of time, right? You're not getting, I don't know what these beings are after when they do that. I haven't a frickin' clue. What are they getting from it? Not much. Knowing they might have scared somebody in the house, that's a bit of a yawn at this point of the game, isn't it? Like, what do you guys want? What are you up to? Why are you doing that? What's going on for real? Let's get past the bullshit. I'm gonna throw some rocks on top of this house. Said no intelligent person ever. What are you getting from that, right? But anyway, quick note I keep forgetting to mention. So when Jeff and his son were on my boat, remember Jeff, we went and sat at his fire and told stories, right? He's had a couple encounters and a few around his home currently. And I remember before he mentioned his son had seen one of these beings. So I asked him, earlier before they came fishing, I thought I would be making a video, but it didn't even cross my mind. We were too wrapped up in the fishing. But I did ask him while we were fishing. I said, "Hey man, you ever seen one of these things?" And he's like, "Yep." I'm like, "No way, what happened?" And he said him and his 2 young friends, I think they were around 10 years old, were riding their quads back right in the forest behind where Jeff and I were sitting. And he said that this thing went ripping diagonally across the road in front of him. And he said he could just see half of his face. And he said the look on his face was scared. He said it was grayish black in color, had covered in head to toe in hair, but thought it was probably a young one because he said it was only about the same height as his dad, right? Which is about a 6-foot dude. I'm guessing Jeff's probably 6 foot or something. So there you go. That was a quick mention I forgot to mention. What was that? But it's interesting. Not too many kids. I haven't spoken firsthand to too many children, kids, teenagers, whatever, that have seen these beings. But I did mention quite a while ago about some of the kids in the old hood that I was recently living in. These young kids who I know quite well, took them fishing and stuff and played soccer with them and beat them up and shit, right? And they all told me of this. They described this being as a dirty, hairy man sitting on his ass, was back up against a big fir tree watching them play soccer at a friend's house, which this friend's house is at the mouth of the Birkenhead River on the side of Lillooet Lake. And this thing was sitting on the ground just inside the forest. And they said when they looked at it, it got up and walked away. And all they said was, it was like a dirty man. It was a dirty, hairy man. And I'm listening to these kids, oh yeah, oh yeah. And it's really interesting to watch them interact with each other, watching their expressions on their face, what came out of their mouths and how they spoke, when they all remembered and recounted the exact same experience of seeing that, quote, dirty, hairy man sitting on the ground against the tree watching us kick the soccer ball. Have I talked to any other children? I don't think so. I mean, I don't really have access to hearing from children when it comes to Sasquatch, right? And they don't email us, right? So, move along. Let's get another voice heard. All right, here we go. What's this one? It's titled Red/Brown Juveniles. Hi, Steve. My story begins when I was 9.5 months pregnant with our firstborn. We'd been to the hospital twice already, making sure the baby could handle the birth. I went through 2 months of weekly blood tests, which said things were not doing well. Uh-oh. We both needed a break from the stress of life so this baby could come out safely. The doctor at the time gave me excessive stress just by his bedside manner, so we left town. We had friends down the coast we visited over the weekend. The guys went fishing and had a great time. Us girls just relaxed at the beach and visited. The weather was warm for Oregon in the middle of July. My friend's husband worked for the Forest Service and gave my hubby a great location to do further fishing on our way home. Their turn off to this great fishing hole was maybe 30-minute drive off the coastal highway. After parking there was a trail through the thick forest to the river. Once in the trail, I was hit by a truckload of raccoon poo smell. I don't know what that smells like, but I'm guessing it's not too good. I'm a sensitive person and very pregnant. It was very hard to breathe without retching. The forest was dark and cold, and I was shivering, only wearing shorts, t-shirt, and sandals. When my eyes adjusted to the forest, I noticed way too many tall trees broken or bent in half, the tops touching the ground. Then, 2 to 3 pyramid-type forms. They're further away, so I'm not sure if they were clamshell piles that looked taller than my 5'2" height. There's no breeze, no noise. My sixth sense said, danger, leave now. That's when I spoke up and said, I don't think we should be here. Being as calm as I could be, my hubby said, you can go back to the rig and wait for me. Hell no, I didn't want to be alone. Who said we don't send the women off to be alone? Men. Ever. Hell no, I didn't want to be alone, so I followed him to the river. He was dressed better for trails, with boots and long pants. I was frozen with fear. Once we got to the river, there wasn't much of any trail to follow down to the river, but there was a few rocks that led to a nice flat rock in the middle of the river, heated by the sun. I found my perch to warm up on, while hubby investigated a fishing hole down the river. The rock was roomy enough, and I started to warm up. I faced the opposite side of the river so I could hopefully breathe in cleaner air. The smell was just as strong as it had been in the forest. I started a meditation to feel safer and send safety to my hubby. I felt like I floated up above me, melding with my higher self for protection. I have no idea how long I was floating, but I heard what sounded like a dozen teenagers singing, whistling, and carrying a boombox. This was in July 19th, 78. Oh my God, they were so loud. I ignored them, hoping this wasn't their party place, and continued to just float above me and be in bliss. Yeah, right. This wasn't the place for that. Pretty soon I was noticed. There were whoops, whistles, louder whoops. Then I had 2 boulders thrown inches next to me that splashed in the river. And I yelled, "Go away, leave me alone, kids." Then the scream of all screams. Like a sound wave going through not just my chest and body, but I felt my baby reacting to the sound wave too. That was not okay. I dropped back into my body as it was going through wave after wave of sonic boom. Shit, was that a nuclear bomb? In my mind I saw 3 red-brown, 7-ish beings acting like teenagers. Wow. Maybe 300 pounds each. Who are these people? How dare you? I heard them say, "Leave, you're in our home, you're in danger, our elder is coming, bringing our meal, leave now." I'm not leaving without my husband. In 3 minutes, my husband was running, with his eyes bulged out like a cartoon character. I never seen him move so fast, ever. He said, "We're going now." I followed quickly behind him. We were both trembling all the way back and even miles away. I wonder if they mind whipped us both. We never spoke about it ever. Said so many people. Our baby girl was born that Friday, healthy, and I didn't remember any of this until I woke up about 12 years ago. Then I remembered everything, all the traumas in my life starting at age of 3 years old. And this is only one story of many. Thank you, Steve. I've only tried to tell this in bits and pieces to my sister over the years. I hope it'll help someone. It helped me just by sharing it. Bless you for being here. Bless you for being here. Stay healthy and safe. Sincerely, Tony S. All right, Tony, that's an interesting one. Sounds like you've mastered meditation, something I hope to do one day when I get time to actually dive in, because when I, obviously, you guys figured out by now, once I go get into doing something, I tunnel vision on it until I've mastered it. Maybe this is the year I'll be able to do that. Excuse me, and I'm glad your daughter was born healthy. That's really, really good news. Speaking of health, a lot of you, I understand, have donated to my friends, my family's GoFundMe for her cancer medication. That is so appreciative. There's so many kind people here, and I hope that, obviously, this channel and the subscribers here are just a teeny fraction, a drop in the bucket of how many people are on the world today. And I hope that that is a reflection of what's really going on with the majority of us out in the world, is the kindness. So there's so much kindness. There's so many kind people here. So many kind people here is such a freaking good thing. Anyway, she contacted me this morning in tears, sharing her gratitude and how she was just taken back by how much kindness and how many caring people there are in the world. It's a really good thing. I'll even share that. I'll share the GoFundMe link one more time under this video as well. Kind people everywhere, thank God. All right, what's this one? Moving along. This is titled, "I have never spoke to anyone about it." Hi Steve, I found your show on YouTube. I like hunting stories, and you have some good ones. I've never spoken to anyone about what happened in '85. I grew up in the woods. I know it sounds strange, but as a kid, we lived a quarter mile back in the woods. I spent hours exploring, tracking animals, and learning how to keep them from seeing me. I've had deer and turkeys come within feet of me, but that's not really important. Or maybe it is. Anyway, in '85, I bought my first real rifle, a Remington 700 30-06. Got from a guy I worked with. He let me give him $200 for it. My dad thought I was nuts. In southern lower Michigan, it's shotguns only, but an uncle had a cabin where we could go in Harrison, Michigan. There's 5 of us. Planned a trip. My uncle, one of my brothers, and 2 cousins. We got there late in the afternoon, had dinner, and went to bed. The next morning, we were off before daylight. Walking around, I found a blind someone had built. It was well hidden. There's a note in it saying, "Feel free to use unless I'm here." So I crawled in, got settled down. There was a meadow in front. I had a clear killing zone in front. I'd been in it about 2 hours when things got strange. First couple of does came running out of the forest. They were on a dead run. I thought something spooked them. And having a doe tag, I let them go. Sorry, not having a doe tag, I let them go. Not long after, I heard someone whacking a tree, which I thought was weird. Why would anybody do that? Off to the side of the blind, I heard someone moving around, getting a little pissed by now. I said, just loud enough for them to hear me, "Hey, asshole, I'm here. Move on." I heard a loud grunt and limbs snapping. Then it got quiet again. For a few minutes, I heard a clanging sound. I thought some idiot was banging on something. It turned out to be one of my cousins. He had an old K98 rifle with this steel butt plate. It was hitting his thermos. Well, out I came so I could ask him why he was making such a racket, but he cut me off by asking if I saw that thing that was near me. I said, "What thing?" He told me he thought it was a bear until it stood up looking around and took off. He was scared shitless and wanted to leave, but I wanted to look around a little. He described what he had seen. In my teens, I'd seen a movie called Sasquatch. I hadn't thought about it until then. For a minute I thought, here we are, both of us well armed, why should we worry? But I remembered in the movie it started with one, and then more showed up. We hiked back to the truck about a mile back. He wanted to go home, but the rest of us had taken vacation time and didn't want to waste it. We went to a different part of the state land. He stayed at the cabin, drinking and looking out the window. We got to where we wanted to go. I walked down a logged road, came up to a group of hunters all standing around. I walked up and asked one of them if something was going on. The guy said, "See that tree?" I looked over at it, and there's blood all over it. I asked what happened. He told me a man was found leaning up against it, a bullet between his eyes earlier that morning. Then I was ready to head home. I've never been hunting up there again. Well, that's my story. Use it if you want. My name is Mike B. Thanks for your telling the truth about things. P.S. You're right about those people on that show. How could anybody find anything in the woods running around making noise and acting stupid? I'm out. There you go. More members of the club in a return. Your poor friend. Your poor buddy, eh? You imagine? That would really, really suck if you were with a group of people, you planned a great big trip, all that time, the money, the time taken off work, scheduling, families, kids at home. Finally, you're on your way, and one of your groups sees something like this and is absolutely terrified and probably willing to fist fight to turn around and go home. You imagine having to be that one guy or gal, and now you're outnumbered by 5 or 6 people, possibly, or whatever, and they're like, "Shut up. We're not going home." And then they carry on, and now you gotta stay. That would suck, especially if you were absolutely not familiar with these facts going on. You didn't even have a half of an inkling it may be real. Although you might have seen some stupid show on TV, right? I stress the stupid show part. Oops. But anyway. Let's get another one heard. Man, it's really raining out there. Thankfully. This is titled Southern Mississippi. Hello, Steve. I'd like to share by saying most every video you post inspires me even more to spend time outdoors. Hunting, fishing, hiking, etc. I do kindly ask that if you do choose to read this on your channel, only use my first name, please. Chris. Gotcha, Chris. And thank you for leaving out your last name. And hopefully to put it in the rest of the email. I've watched numerous videos you've shared that involve gut feelings, and decided to share 2 separate occasions where I had this uncontrollable urge to retreat. One story being from when I was 6. I'll begin with the time I was 6, and only because one other person who wrote in experienced exactly what I did. So, I feel as though I might not be loopy about it. At the time, I lived in a bayou house on stilts about 5 feet off the ground in southern Mississippi. It was Christmas Eve night, so I stayed up in hopes that I would see Santa. Typical mischievous kid. I remember that night was also the first time I seen snow, fairly rare there. Anyways, there I was, looking out my bedroom window from the top bunk, roughly 8 to 10 feet from the ground outside. Suddenly, the light from our neighbor's yard was gone, and I was staring into two red eyes. Like when you take a photo with the old Polaroids. I gasped for air as I jumped backwards and to the side, off the bunk and on my back. But the panic kept me from feeling anything. I ran to the living room screaming and crying. And when I woke my mom, she assured me it was simply a dream. So I ran with that. I've told only a couple close friends, and it's usually the same reaction, that I'm either crazy or lying, and I simply shut up about it. I've always questioned the experiences, though. I truly apologize if this is the length of a novel. Never apologize for the length of your email. As long as it doesn't start rambling off about 16 unrelated topics, we're all good. Keep her going. My second experience is while catfishing. This is in the northern U.S. this past year. I spent my life outdoors and never had this feeling or any negative feeling other than once in a while scouting for deer. I assume this was because of the mountain lions in the area out west, and of course when I was 6. Anyways, it was nearing 2 in the morning and was catching fish back to back, so I'm having a blast out there by myself. To my back is the thick forest, and in front of me a small river at the base of a hill. Suddenly, all at once, every sense kicked into overdrive. My heart raced, the hair on the back of my neck stood up, my chest tightened. I could hear my pulse in my ears and even felt my ears move back a little, like a horse's to hear behind me. The shakes I got were like I chewed on a power line. I froze for a minute trying to listen for anything, leaves rustling, twigs snapping, anything. But it was deathly quiet, other than the sound of the river, which also seemed too quiet a little as I focused my senses into the forest, and my heart beat in my ears. Suddenly all my alarms went off saying, "Get up, get your shit, get back to your pickup." I did just that. The further I walked away, both walking forward and back, pedaling to keep guard behind me, the more relief I felt. I've since been back and haven't felt the fear again. Not sure what to think. Perhaps I fooled my brain into thinking I was a target, or maybe there was really something out there glaring at me. Either way, I'm glad that the other writer wrote in about the eyes. I don't feel as foolish now. Thank you for all the videos of every topic. Keep up the great work and stay safe out there in the mountains or on the water. All right, man. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you, man. And obviously you've been here a bit now. You know, you're not the only one with the red eyes. The red eyes has been reported so many times, it's almost standard detail now, right? The big question is, why the red? Why do they reveal the red eyes to human beings? Why? How are they illuminating their eyes on their own? Now, on the red eye note, always take note. Where have we seen red eyes used in our culture? It's always on the monsters, right? The monsters have always had red eyes. In comic books and movies, drawings, the monsters always had red eyes. The bad guys always had red eyes. Where'd they get the red eyes from? Originally, right? Where'd they get it from? Why'd they go with it? Why do human beings know to put red eyes on the bad guys or the bad creatures, the bad monsters? Right? Gee, I wonder where they got it from. All right. Okay. Here's another one. No title. Dear Steve, first of all, I want to say thank you for all the content you upload with your busy schedule. You've given a lot more peace of mind. I wish to hide my identity so you may refer to me as Jay. Feel free to share my story if you like. I'll start off by giving you a little background about myself. I'm 24 years old. I'm from a very rural county in southwest Virginia. Probably more cows here than people. I'm a very active person. I'm an avid bow hunter and gun hunter and fisherman, and have been for the majority of my life. I'm very active with lots of hiking and running when I'm home. I know I'm very young, but I have nerves of steel. I drive a tractor and trailer. I pull a low boy. I moved any kind of equipment you can imagine. Everything from excavators to bulldozers to cranes, drills, and off-road hauler, etc. After I started driving a truck through the rain, sleet, and hail and snow, nothing really seemed to get my blood pressure up anymore. Now, time to get to my experience. Me and a lifelong friend went in together and leased 100 acres to hunt this year, close to where he lived, where I've lived my whole life. I ran through the woods my whole life without a care in the world until about a month ago. It all began about a month ago. I rode my four-wheeler a couple hundred yards into the woods, so I had probably a 20-minute walk to my deer stand, which I had hunted at this stand several times this year already without incident. As soon as I got within 100-ish yards, I got the most terrified feeling I've ever gotten in my whole life. It was all I could do to breathe, let alone keep walking. Off pulled my 40 cal. Probably meant I pulled my 40 cal pistol from its holster. I was frozen with my light in my hand. My heart was beating out of my chest. I was sick to my stomach. I could hear something keep walking around me. I know what a deer, bear, turkey, and squirrel sound like, and it was not one of these. I stood there for what seemed like an eternity, but probably wasn't 30 seconds, and I quickly walked to my stand. I didn't run, but I didn't waste any time. Once I finally made it to my stand, I never felt safe until the sun came up. But once I could start seeing through the thick timber, I just had the biggest calm I've ever felt in my life come over me. I don't know if they were testing me to see my reaction, or if the calming feeling was because my sixth sense was telling me that they decided I wasn't worth fooling with, or what. I never did see anything, I just had my sixth sense bell ringing like you'd not believe. Ever since this incident, I've been hearing very alarming sounds like monstrous rocks being thrown through tree limbs. Not really being thrown at me, but just in my general direction. Big tree limbs were being snapped very loudly, but no screams or growls. Not that I'm complaining about not hearing them, I don't want to hear them. I don't want another encounter. I don't ever want that feeling again in my life. I would not wish that upon my worst enemy, to feel as helpless as I did. Do you have any idea what they wanted with me? Why did I have the big calming feeling? Could you throw your 2 cents in on the whole situation, please? I'm begging for some enlightenment. I've not completely given up hunting in the area, but I'm very wary about where I go and when I go. Thank you for everything you've done and all the stories and advice you've shared. Keep doing you, and don't let anyone ever take that away. Feel free to email me back, Sincerely Jay. What do they want? I don't know what the hell's going on, man. I don't know why or what they want with us. Is that a warning? I don't know. Is that was someone messing with you and someone who has authority over them give them a little kick in the ass and sent you the calming feeling? I don't know, maybe possibly haven't a clue. But I do remember one thing I heard firsthand from a man looking me in the eyes and Dr. John Bendernagel in the eyes while he told us his experience near Kamloops, British Columbia, of this being peeking out at him from behind a tree, scared the absolute shit out of him. He was hunting, had his gun on it, and he said that all of a sudden, after staring this thing in the face at 15 yards or whatever it was, after doing this for a little bit, he said to us, this is over 20 years ago now, holy shit. He said to us that all of a sudden he had an absolute calming feeling came over him, like everything's going to be okay, everything's fine. I'll never forget he said that. And that was, back then, that was one of my first clues that there's a lot more going on than just a rutting monkey eating bananas swinging around the forest staying hidden, right? Which couldn't be further from the truth. So, what's the calming feeling all about? I don't know. We're going to find out, and I'm quite confident we are. Please don't stop going to the woods, man. Go with your sixth sense. Go with your gut instincts, all right? You guys, you see where I go when I'm sharing all these videos. I still go. Do I go places my gut says don't go? Never. I don't go there. If I go with my gut with every decision I make in life, I go with it. Even the most minute detail, even the most minute decisions, whether I should go fish right over there or whether I should go fish there. I go with my gut. Your gut wins every single time. So keep on going out in the woods, keep hunting. And just stay in tune. Stay in tune with yourself and the real world. That skill, being able to do that today, is probably one of the most vital skills we could possibly possess today, is going with our sixth sense, our natural instincts. Because especially when you look at what's really going on, is the massive effort going down of various groups or individuals trying to keep us the furthest they can, keep us the furthest we can be from being in tune with ourselves, our intuition, in the real world. It's a very obvious, big movement trying to get us all to not be able to go there. Don't know why. Have a good idea, but I don't know 100% for certain. But anyway, babbling. Sean Ryan podcast. I promoted Sean Ryan's podcast a few times. I don't know the guy, never met him. But I have listened to him recently. Like when I'm on the boat, I'll listen to a podcast. I'm trying to fall asleep, and he has been cracking open some taboo topics. He's not a scared man. He's brave, and there's no bullshit with this guy. And I would encourage all of you to possibly go have a quick listen to Sean Ryan. Go through his videos, see what title might be interesting to you, and listen to him. I believe he's a good man. And he's a no bullshit guy, and he's not scared. And he's sharing a lot of truths that the majority of society would probably shun as way too out there. And he's going for it. And he's going in anyway. And he's bringing forth a lot of what are called today as whistleblowers, sharing truth. So, how to listen to him when you can. That's one other mention I wanted to make while I was here. Now, what am I doing? Before I could babble even more, I guess I'm probably my butt in gear. Get caught up in some stuff here. And come back and share some more voices. I'm going to try to actually share more voices this evening so that you guys can get a good start in your day. Tomorrow morning with getting back on the usual early launching routine of hearing voices. God, I had a lot to say. There's a message I had in my head. It came to my attention that I was going to... Oh yeah, okay. Sorry. On the questions, how about this one, all you? Let's just say, you could be in contact with someone who had the answers when it comes to this topic. Okay? Let's just say, you could. Give me your top 10 questions you would ask when it comes to this particular topic, the Sabe, Sasquatch, the wild people topic. Give me your top 10 questions. Make sure they're good ones. Really think about it. Don't just go ripping down 10 questions off the top of your mind. Think about it. Really, truly think about it. Let's just say you could have those answers. What would you ask? Your top 10 questions. If you felt absolutely confident you could have those questions answered from someone who knows, what would those top questions be when it comes to this topic? All right? I'm very, very curious right now what your top 10 questions would be. All right? Just in case they may be answered shortly. All right? And I think I'll sit down and I will write down my top 10 questions as well, and I'll put them in the comment section myself, and I'll pin it so you can all see what I would ask at this stage of the game. All right? Let's do that right now. Or when you got time. Put them in the comment section below this video. Please share with me your top 10 questions you would have of these beings if you were 100% confident they were going to be answered honestly. And I'll do the same. All right? I think this will be very interesting. And there you go. Now, off I go. And as well, I'm going to share my friend's link for her GoFundMe that her girlfriend created for her. If anybody would like to do anything, throw down 50 cents for whatever you could. And most of all, I would hope to have prayers given for her. Good vibes, good words, good feelings, prayers of hope and happiness. All right, that's it. I'm out. I'll see you guys later on.